Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, the podcast for conscious parents, caregivers, and educators who believe tantrums aren't terrible. They are powerful opportunities for connection, growth, and learning during the first 5 years. You'll explore how to use intentional language to raise calm, confident, and deeply connected kids, because the way we talk to kids becomes how they see themselves and engage with the world. Hi, I'm your host, Cara Terrell, classroom teacher turned parent educator and teacher trainer. Are you ready to nurture your children's mind, body, and spirit? Welcome, Toddler Tribe. Let's transform the toddler years together. Welcome back, Toddler Tribe, to another episode of the show. We are continuing on with our little linguist series, and today it's time to tap in to a little excerpt from chapter 7. We're tackling listening, true listening. And my hope is by the end of this short episode that you will have redefined what listening means for yourself, and that you will have shifted the way that you expect kids to listen to you. How's that for a goal for the next 10 minutes? All right. We're big thinkers around here, right? Here we go. Chapter 7, the 4 steps to active listening. I walked into the toddler room just in time to hear the teacher give a command. Josh, you need to give Lila a turn. Josh, a 20-month-old little boy, clearly had no intention of doing any such thing. In fact, he gripped the toy monkey even tighter, closed his eyes tight, and vocalized, "Ah!" in a determined, don't even think about trying to take this from me tone. Without even realizing it, this teacher had started a power struggle with just 8 words. The teacher sighed deeply, looked at me, and said, "I just wish he would listen." "He did," I replied. "He heard you, and he listened. He just chose not to follow your directions." What? Okay, let's break it down, shall we? If you listened to last week's or the last solo episode, then you know I kind of gave you a hint about this 4-step process. In the education world, we call this active listening. And we ask kids with our words, do you have your ears on? Are your ears active listening? But the truth is, we have an expectation that doesn't meet the process that young brains go through in order to listen. Definition of listening. What is it? What is it? What do you think? When I ask this question in professional development sessions or from stages, I get answers like, do what I say, follow my directions, show me they understand. That is the definition of comprehension. And demonstrating that comprehension through action. What are actions? They're choices that we make. You are actually not in charge of a toddler's choices. You can guide with your words, but they are the ones who are actively making the choice. So if our definition of listening is that they take the action that we command them to do, and that is a positive indicator of listening, we've got it all wrong. And if we've got it all wrong, how can we ever have a successful celebration with a child? They'll either be doing one of 2 things from our perspective: meeting the expectation, which we already believe they should. Dangerous word right there. So they don't get a whole lot of credit for doing it. because it's the expected behavioral outcome, or they don't meet the expectation. And then we do have something to say about it. Oh, they don't listen. They need to listen better. Not true. I'll stand by that. If you have kids in your realm that are deaf or have hearing loss issues, then you have a actual hearing challenge, which makes the active listening harder, for sure. Let's put those kids to the side for the moment. For this discussion, we are talking about typically developing kids with full hearing capacity from the ear canal all the way up to the auditory cortex in their brain where language is processed. Okay? Hearing children. Great. They have to do 4 things in order to choose their action. They have to attend to you. You need to have their attention. A complete, connected attention link. A bond in that moment, even if it's fleeting. The attention needs to be in place. Then they hear the words that come out of your mouth. And that sound wave, that frequency enters, goes up through the ear canal, hits the auditory cortex in the brain. The third step is to process what they heard. Remember, they all heard it. Is to process it. And the fourth step is to choose their active response. Notice that sometimes their active response is to do nothing. It's still a choice. Josh chose not to hand the toy over. That is still the act of listening. It's just not meeting the expectation that the adult had in mind. Is this shifting your mindset at all? Are you having that perspective aha moment right now? Okay. Attention, hearing, processing, choosing. These are our 4 steps, right? Let's back up to that third one. What's the other possibility here? That they are having trouble processing the information. So many more kids right now are having processing challenges than we've ever seen before. Neurodiversity is on the rise. That is a biological processing functional challenge. Attention disorders are on the rise. Anxiety disorders are on the rise. And when we have these additional layers of stressor to the system as it's working, functioning, and developing, processing can be more challenging. But let's take all those kids and let's put them over there with our deaf and hard of hearing kids for a minute, shall we? And come back to when we now have typically developing kids who have full hearing, access to sound, and they are processing at a typically developing rate for their age, somewhere between birth and 3. Okay. Guess what? They still need more time to process than you think they do. In fact, they're going to need more than twice the time to process than you do. I want you to think carefully about this. If I asked you a question, straight up, just asked you a question, would you like a latte? You immediately have an answer for me. Why? You immediately have a yes or a no. If it's a yes, you just went in a millisecond through a number of scenarios that helped you make that choice. Well, I was up pretty early this morning and last week I tried that new latte and it was really good. I really wanted to have another one and I know it's in my budget. So I guess I can this week. And I mean, you just went through a million scenarios and cause and effect decision making moments in your brain to tell me, yes, I will. Now, if I met you at the coffee shop and I said, hey, do you want a latte? And you said no, you did the same thing. Well, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. If I have caffeine now, I'm going to be up all night. Ooh, I don't know. Milk and my belt. No, I'm not a big milk fan. I know what milk does to me. You just went through a myriad of decision-making points to make that decision based on who you are, what you know about yourself, your history, your experience with the item, etc., etc., etc. You did all that like that. You are dealing with brilliantly growing, but still very limited brains in the sense that they don't have years worth of data to sift through. They don't have cause and effect outcomes to weigh, except the most recent. And this is important, right? Because maybe you bounced back to 5 years ago when you had your first latte, took a sip and was like, no way, never again. But what does Josh have? At 20 beautiful months of age, he has a sensory feeling of what happened yesterday when somebody said the word share and then took a toy out of his hand and forced it to happen. That's what he has. He has a sensory memory that when that word was used and that action was taken, it didn't feel good in his body and he didn't like it and he would like it to not happen again. And even because it's so recent, it was just yesterday, it still is going to take him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solid, legitimate seconds to do all of that big brain work. And we need to give space to kids. Time, silence, and availability to process what we said before we say the next thing. I dive much deeper into this in chapter 7, and I cannot wait for you to explore that in the book. But for today, when you hear yourself give a direction or give a command, and a child does not do what you ask them to do, please remember, it is not a 2-step process. It's a 4-step process. And that listening does not mean successfully did what you told them to do. It's a much deeper experience than that. Okay. You know what to do, Toddler Tribe. Stay mindful and proactive until our next episode as we transform the toddler years.